I'm the only frank loser at the Guide Academy. I'm severely allergic to spirit animals. On the day of the graduation assessment, the S-Class Sentinel Lu Ling's black dragon suddenly went berserk, just as he was about to destroy everything.
He turned his head and looked at me.
Then, he shoved that terrifying head that could scare a baby into crying, straight into my arms. He let out a pitiful sound. The whole place was dead silent. That notoriously violent S-Class Sentinel walked up to me. From today on, you're assigned to my Guide Academy. Graduation assessment? The atmosphere was even heavier than previous years. Not because of the exam questions, but because of the man in the viewing stand, Lu Ling, the Federation's youngest S-Class Sentinel.
He had an impressive record.
But he's also known for extremely unstable mental landscapes, and his notorious temper and violent outbursts. When he loses control, his mental pressure can make any guide below a rank break down immediately. Right now, he sat with his eyes closed, resting. No one in the entire venue dared to even breathe loudly. I stood at the end of Class F, trying to make myself as invisible as possible. Su Li, step back later. I heard an uncontrolled entity got into the simulation zone. If you have another allergic reaction? I nodded and pulled up my protective suit collar. At the Guide Academy, Su Li is a joke. Not because of bad grades. I have full marks in theory classes. But because I'm allergic to all spirit animals. Other people's spirit animals are rabbits, birds, or cats. But I can't even materialize a spirit animal. When someone else's spirit animal comes near me, I break out in hives and have trouble breathing. The Academy did over 300 tests, all with the same results. An F-rank guide with a talent score of 0. Diagnosed with a generalized spirit animal contact allergy. In short, I'm a useless person who shouldn't exist. Symptom relief eventually came. Spirit animals carried 3 B-level uncontrolled entities for special training. Each group coordinated in combat. No one was allowed to fall behind. The top students in Class A released their spirit animals. Snow leopards, falcons, and Arctic foxes drew gasps from the crowd. I stepped back half a step again. Class F's job was just perimeter alert. Stay back and don't cause trouble. The battle began. Spirit animals roared. Mental ripples clashed. I could feel the energy waves, like fine needles pricking my skin. I endured it, not operating anything. It was an old-style mental ripple stabilizer. The Academy gave it to me as a special consideration. It could be used without needing a spirit animal. Suddenly, a scream. In the depths of the simulation zone, a tiger from Class A had its spirit animal gripped by an invisible hand, thrashing in pain, and its form falling apart. Instructor, something's coming out of the northeast corner. A cold, violent mental pressure swept through the venue like a tsunami. On the viewing stand, Lu Ling's eyes snapped open. A flash of deep red appeared in his gaze. All students contracted their defenses. This isn't an act. It's too late. A massive shadow rose from a crack in the simulation zone. A dragon, its whole body obsidian black. Its wings spread, blocking out the sky. Bloody red vertical pupils looked down on us like ants. Black smoke like mental pollution swirled around its body. Wherever it passed, the ground withered. That black dragon belongs to Commander Lu Ling. Why is he in the simulation zone? Fear spread. Several students collapsed. Their spirit animals withdrew inside them, requesting backup. Ace's spirit animal has lost control. Before the words finished, the black dragon threw its head back and roared. A mental shockwave exploded out. A dozen students were blown away and crashed into the barrier. The viewing stand's isolation barrier flickered violently. Lu Ling's seat groaned beneath him. Veins bulged at his temple. As he stared at the black dragon, his eyes were a storm barely contained. All guides attempted to link mentally. Several ranks released, soothing ripples. But their strength was like streams entering an ocean. They only made him angrier. The black dragon's gaze locked on an rank student. Its jaws opened wide, black dragon breath gathering. Just at that critical moment, maybe out of fear, or maybe influenced by the kingly leopard spirit's field, the old-style stabilizer in my hands suddenly overloaded and sparked with a burst of electricity. The sound was particularly jarring in the silence. The black dragon paused. Its bloody red vertical eyes slowly turned toward me. Time froze. I could see the despair in the instructor's eyes, and the terror on my classmates' faces. On the viewing platform, Lu Ling's sharp gaze almost pierced right through me. Then the black dragon moved. He abandoned the A rank and dove straight at me, the useless F rank Su Li. A foul wind rushed at me. I was frozen in place, not even able to close my eyes. After being tormented by my own allergy for years, I was now about to die at the hands of a spirit animal. What an irony. The black dragon's shadow engulfed me. He lowered his head, his giant, fanged jaws just inches away. I waited for the agony of being torn apart. Cold and hard, something with strange patterns, gently pressed against my forehead. I looked up in confusion. That terrifying black dragon was using his scaly nose to nuzzle my forehead ever so carefully. Then a low rumble came from its throat, and he nudged forward, testing. Then he did something that stunned everyone. He took that huge, ferocious head and slowly shoved the whole thing right into my arms. Adjusting position, finding a comfortable posture. Finally, he was satisfied. Yes, and let out a long, aggrieved sound from deep in his throat. In the dead silent assessment hall, only the black dragon's heavy breathing remained, and my pounding heartbeat, the weight of cold scales in my arms, sent an odd sensation through my protective suit. No allergic reaction, no suffocation. On the contrary, an unprecedented warmth and peace spread through me, melting away years of tight nerves. But I was still stiff as a rock. Su Li, are you okay? The black dragon suddenly looked up, its red eyes sweeping across, a low, threatening growl rumbling from his throat. That classmate scrambled back, almost tripping over himself. The black dragon grunted in satisfaction, then pushed his head back into my arms. On the viewing platform, Lu Ling was already on his feet. He walked down the steps, his military boots echoing clearly. He came to stand right in front of me. His features were sharp and striking, skin pale and cold, lips thin and colorless. But the most striking thing were those jet-black eyes, which at this moment were staring unwaveringly at me, or rather at the black dragon snuggling in my arms. His gaze was deeply complicated, appraising, probing, and thick with confusion he couldn't hide, and a touch of exhaustion he tried but failed to conceal. The black dragon in my arms shifted, letting out a dissatisfied whimper. Still didn't leave my arms. Lu Ling frowned slightly. He reached out his hand, hovering it above the black dragon's head, fingertips gathering elusive mental energy. The black dragon's scales bristled slightly. Makes a warning hiss. Tighten the grip on me. Name, Su Li. Rank, FF level. The spirit beast didn't raise its head. I followed instinctively. He leaned in closer, so close I could see deep into his eyes. Almost imperceptible dark red flecks, like embers about to burn out. Are you scared? I nodded honestly, then quickly shook my head. He likes you. Starting today, Su Li is assigned to my direct command. Sir, that's against regulations. Su Li failed the 8th level graduation test. With a special constitution, the rule is, my spirit beast fell asleep in his arms. That's the ultimate rule. The instructor was at a loss for words. Everyone was shocked to discover that terrifying black dragon had closed its scarlet slit eyes at some point. Its breathing had become deep and steady, even started making a faint rumbling sound. The terrifying black mist around it faded considerably. It was really asleep, in the arms of an F-level failure, someone allergic to spirit beasts. Hold him and follow me. Hugging him, Lu Ling tapped his finger on the dragon's forehead scale. The black dragon opened its eyes drowsily, swished its tail, making loud thumping noises on the ground. Then under Lu Ling's gaze, its massive body contracted and reshaped, finally turning into a band of black light wrapping around me. My wrist turned into a bracelet of dark scales, a cold black bracelet with 2 faint red eye-like dots. I stiffly raised my wrist. He'll follow you now. I glanced at the bracelet on my wrist, then at all the complicated looks around me, finally looked forward. Lu Ling's tall figure looked even more solitary from behind. Gritting my teeth, I followed. He led me to a solitary gray building deep in the academy. After 3-stage verification, the alloy doors slid open. A cold air rushed out. Inside, it was as empty as a hall. Almost no furniture, just a huge metal platform in the center, surrounded by countless pipelines and instruments. Special sound-absorbing material on the walls and ceiling. This doesn't look like a living space, more like a prison. This is the silent room, where I usually stay. How much do you know about the case with Yuan? Only that your spirit beast is extremely powerful and unstable, not unstable. It's overload my mental powers innately too high. Incompatible with the current guide system, willing to hold all my power and bear all the untamed violence, chaos and pain. I took the cup of water. The cold calmed me down somewhat. Soothing by guides is useless on me. Their mental power is too weak. Like using a cup of water to cool lava, a stronger guide's mental power becomes invasive, will trigger a severe rejection by Yuan. So I can only lock it up here, waiting to be completely devoured or collapse. I gripped the cup tightly. Until today, Yuan approached you on his own and calmed down beside you. You have no spirit beast. Mental scan reading is 0, not because it's missing, but because it's absolutely reined in or extremely stable. You're allergic to other spirit beasts. Maybe it's not a pathological rejection, but that your mental field is so pure, you can't endure even the smallest impurity from other spirits. While Yuan and I at peak impurity and chaos, theoretically, you should react the most strongly. But the reality is the opposite.
He reached out his hand.
Fingertips hovering by my cheek. A trace of extremely weak mental power brushed over me like the lightest feather. I held my breath. No rash. No discomfort. That trace of his mental power, as it neared me, was pacified by an invisible force, and grew gentle and calm, then quietly dispersed. Lu Ling's fingertips trembled imperceptibly. He withdrew his hand behind his back. But I saw his hand muscles tense up instantly. Sui, you are not a failure. You might be the only one who can come near me without being devoured. The only one who can touch Yuan without being polluted. The only one who lets me. He stopped and didn't finish. In the utterly silent room, his unfinished words, and the dark red reigniting in his eyes, were more eloquent than any speech. The dragon bracelet on my wrist grew faintly warm, gently rubbing against my skin. I looked at the man before me, standing on the edge between power and destruction. For the first time I realized, this wasn't just a simple graduation problem I picked up, but a lonely god on the verge of collapse. And it seemed he decided that all his remaining reason and peace would be entrusted to me, the so-called F-level failure. After that day, my life turned upside down. I graduated from F-class as a special recruit. My file was entered into the top military confidential sequence, directly under Lu Ling. I moved into the same type of empty room next to the silent room. Most importantly, Lu Ling's black dragon Yuan never returned to his side again. It stays wrapped around my wrist in the form of a wristband 24 hours a day. Only when I fall asleep late at night does it occasionally project a shadowy figure, lingering by my bedside. Like a silent guardian, Yuan feels more stable staying by your side. And that stability directly affects my condition and the safety of half the city. I can't argue with that. The upside of being bound to it is, I no longer have to worry about being harassed by other spirits. As long as Yuan is here, no spirit entities dare come within 10 meters of me. The downside is that I've become the focus of the entire academy, even the whole military district. Whenever there's a group, they always talk about Su Li, the one with an F rank. Rumor has it he used some forbiddance technique to control Commander Lu's spirit entity. Not just Commander Lu.
He's with him everywhere now.
Gossip follows me everywhere I go. I try to stay in my small room as much as possible. Or go with Lu Lin to his private area, limiting contact. My recordings aren't affected at all. During meetings, he has me sit right behind him, at the recording table. For training, he lets me go to the military cafeteria with the observation team, and just swipe his access card directly.
He takes me up to the top floor.
You need to adapt to my pace of action. This is part of the observation period. The observation period is a joint program by the Military and Guide Association. Given the unknown risks of my unusual bond with Lu Lin, it's necessary to gather enough data for classification and evaluation. So every day, aside from staying by Lu Lin's side, I get scanned and tested by all sorts of devices. Heart rate, normal. Blood pressure, normal. Psychic field readings, 0. but the surrounding contamination index drops by 37%. Mr. Su, you don't feel any discomfort yourself? Such as dizziness or abnormal dreams? No, I shake my head, looking through the one-way glass. I see Lulin standing there, also receiving a more complex examination. His upper body is bare, with tubes attached, eyes closed and brows knit slightly. One on his wrist twitches slightly, conveying a faint sense of irritation. That's it for the exam, you may go now. I feel as if I've been pardoned, heading for the next room. As I push the door open, Lulin has just disconnected the last tube. He casually pulls on his military shirt, covering new and old scars on his muscular chest, and marks from the monitoring electrodes. How do those look? I'm fine. How about you? He pauses for a moment while buttoning his shirt, then glances at me. There's a depth to his gaze, tinged with fatigue, but it's much softer now than the initial icy scrutiny. Same as always, noisy?
I know.
He's talking about the constant barrages in his mind, the chaotic impulses belonging to Yuan, and the mental noise from the outside world. The guide's shield. It's only partially effective. The silent separation isn't enough. He walks to the window, turns his back to me and looks outside, where young sentinels walk together on the training grounds. The guide remains silent for a long time. It's a little better when you're around. I'm stunned. Yuan rubs against my wrist again, this time sending a rare wave of comfort and attachment. Let's go. We have a meeting this afternoon. You'll come with me. The meeting is about a new discovery at the border. Risk assessment for psychic contamination vein mining. The meeting room is tense. The holographic projection shows plants and animals crazily distorted, after being contaminated by pinkish-purple crystals. Preliminary rating, Class A. Diffuse contamination. The mining risk is extremely high. It's recommended to abandon the vein. It's the highest yield in a decade. But the loss would be too great. Classic contamination. A standard guide team going near is a death wish, unless we use a strategic grade purifier, but the cost. The debate is endless. Lulin sits at the head of the table, slightly to the left, silent the whole time. His fingertips absent-mindedly tap the tabletop. I can sense it as the argument intensifies. Anxiety, greed, calculating emotions spread throughout the room, making him increasingly impatient. One on my wrist starts to heat up slightly. I shift uneasily, Lulin's fingers tapping the table. Stop. Enough arguing. His voice isn't loud, but it's like hitting the mute button. The conference room instantly falls silent. Everyone looks at him, their eyes full of awe and tension. The coordinates of the vein. The coordinates are... Lulin's eyes darken, and after about 3 seconds he opens them again. His eyes glow dusky red, a flash passing through them. The contamination core is 700 meters underground. There's biological nest activity at the 3 o'clock fissure. Preliminary assessment. Mutant or new brood mother. Nest rating S-. Everyone is shocked. How can that be possible? Our scanners only registered up to a class. Your instruments can't pick it up. The psychic brood mother is asleep, emitting unconscious dreamlike contamination. But once awakened, the active psychic toxin it releases can, in half an hour, drive a standard infantry battalion permanently insane and dead. Immediately raise the containment level to S-class. Seal the star sector. Initiate the highest emergency protocol. This time we have you to thank for your perception, though at such a cost. The meeting ends. He turns and leaves immediately. Hurry up and follow. We leave the conference room, walking down an empty corridor, and I notice Lulin is walking faster than usual. Pale-faced, sweat beading at his temples. Commander, he doesn't answer. Going straight into the private elevator. Presses for the top floor. The doors close, and as soon as they do, he suddenly props himself against the elevator wall. The other hand pressed forcefully to his temple, knuckles turning white. A stifled, pained groan escapes his throat. The yuan on Commander Lu's wrist suddenly becomes scorching hot. Black light flaring up, the shadowy figure out of control, expanding in an instant, then forcefully suppressed back into the elevator by him. The lights flicker. Stay back, keep your distance. I freeze in place, watching him slowly slide down the wall. His body convulsing in pain, his eyes usually so cold and sharp, are tightly knit at the brows. He's fighting something. Either the backlash from overusing his perception just now, or the effect of the brood mother's dreamlike contamination. I can feel the chaos, pain, and fury coming from Yuan, and also a strangely pure field around me. Subtly, spontaneously, offsetting some of the negative waves seeping in. Looking at this man who is usually terrifyingly strong, but right now, seems so fragile he might shatter the next second. I can't help but take a step forward, and then another, amid his suppressed, ragged breathing. I crouch down, reaching out, hovering my hand above the back of his hand that's pressing his temple. I don't know what I should do. I'm not a guide. I don't know how to give psychic support. All I have is this strange ability that somehow calms Yuan. I close my eyes and recall the peace I felt with Yuan curled in my arms, trying hard to make my invisible field steadier and cleaner. Minute by minute time passes. The elevator long since reached the top floor, the doors opening and closing on their own. Lulin's breathing finally evens out. He eased the pressure of his hand on his temples. After a long while, he slowly opened his eyes. The bloodshot and confusion in his eyes faded a lot. Only a bottomless exhaustion and a hint of defiance remained.
His gaze
Fell on my trembling fingers hovering above the back of his hand, then slowly moved upward, finally meeting my wide, anxious eyes.
I'm sorry.
I just came over. He reached out to me. His palm opened upward, right in front of me. This gesture lacked command and carried a different meaning. I hesitated for a moment, then put my hand on his. His hand was large. There were light calluses on his palm. It was cold, but at the moment of my touch, those tense muscles seemed to relax just a bit. He held my hand, not tightly, just gently encircling it. Then, using my support, he slowly stood up. The elevator doors opened again. A silent, cold atmosphere from the top floor flooded in.
He didn't immediately let go.
He kept holding my hand. It felt more like I was supporting him. Step by step, we walked back into that huge, empty, icy room. We reached the metal table in the center. He finally let go. I sat up myself, let out a heavy sigh. He looked up at me. His expression was complex and hard to read. Su Li will move into the silent chamber starting tomorrow. It's the room next door. Why here? He was silent for a few seconds, then raised his hand. He quickly and lightly tapped my cheek with his finger. Barely a touch, like an ice shard passing by. Because you are my medicine, and medicine must be kept within reach. First night after moving into the silent chamber, I couldn't sleep. The room was too empty. Luling's breathing was too clear. The metal platform reflected the light. The kite on my wrist occasionally emitted tiny scales, the sound of friction between plates. More importantly, Lulin was lying on the only metal platform, and I slept on a temporary cot right next to it, less than 2 meters away. You need to adapt to my sleep cycle. My condition is most unstable at night. In the second half of the night, just as I was about to drift off, I suddenly heard a stifled groan and the screech of twisting metal. I jerked awake. I saw Lulin curled up on the platform, his body taut like a drawn bowstring, his forehead pressed against the cold metal surface, cold sweat soaking his hairline. At the edge of the platform, where he had gripped unconsciously, the hard alloy was marked with deep fingerprints. The shadow of the abyss churned violently behind him, black mist swirling, crimson eyes flickering in and out of sight, letting out painful low growls. Commander Lu didn't respond. His jaw was clenched tightly, broken syllables rolling in his throat. My wrist, where abyss is, was burning hot. Waves of overwhelming pain and chaos came through. I gritted my teeth and gently placed my hand on the back of his, gripping the platform's edge so tightly, veins bulging on the back of his hand. The moment our skin touched, a bone-chilling cold shot through me, mixed with a sudden surge of wild, burning chaos. I stifled a groan, but didn't pull my hand back. That chaos rushed into my field, like boiling water poured onto snow, fiercely consuming and canceling each other out. At the same time, I focused on stabilizing myself, imagining the calmest lake, the purest air. Time passed slowly. I could feel the pain from abyss gradually lessening. The churning shadow slowly calmed. Lulin's tense body relaxed bit by bit, his clenched fingers slowly loosening one by one. I don't know how long it took before he finally exhaled in a trembling breath and slowly opened his eyes. The blood red in his eyes hadn't faded completely.
His energy still exhausted.
But at least he seemed a little clearer. Suli. I was a little startled, but it seems to work. Yeah, very effective. If this happens again at night, just do what you did just now. Go get some sleep. Starting tomorrow, you'll begin basic physical and mental control training. Since you're the medicine, after all, you have to make sure the effect is stable and durable enough. From tomorrow on, you're officially my exclusive stability officer. I lay on the cot, digesting my new identity. Exclusive stability officer. Sounds like a more advanced, officially registered, human-shaped tranquilizer. Abyss nudged my wrist, sending a wave of reassuring warmth. Fine, a tranquilizer it is. At least this god on the edge of collapse is finally willing to let me stay in his sanctuary. And I think I'm starting to get used to this weighty, icy guard wrapped around my wrist. Being an exclusive stability officer is 100 times busier than observation period. Up at 5 a.m., Lulin pulled me out of bed for an hour of intense physical training. Your body is a vessel. If it's too fragile, you can't handle accidents, wrong breathing rhythm, core not retracing fast enough. A second on the battlefield is life or death. After morning training, I rushed to wash up. Breakfast is a mental control course. Instructor, a top mentor invited by Lulin. Lead mentor Suli. Your situation is highly unusual. You have no standard mental power readings. Your field is diffuse and extremely exclusive. It's like an absolutely clean filter membrane, only allowing pure or approved mental waves to pass through.
Imagine.
It's a membrane of water. With thickness and density you can adjust. Try making it thicker. Focused in your palm. I picture it as hard as I can, face turning red from the effort. But all I can sense is the air feels a little cleaner. No major effect. Effective though faint. But just now, within 3 meters around you, the background mental noise dropped 15%. Keep going. What was useless before can be extremely useful in the right setting. Afternoons are usually spent shadowing Lulin on duty or out on jobs. He seems determined to get me used to his work environment. The rhythm. I see how he makes tough military decisions, spots loopholes in reports, and how others show a deep, respectful fear in his presence. He's distant like a walking island, and I'm the only one allowed to draw near. During those times, when he looked pale from using his abilities too much, walking off alone in silence, I would instinctively go after him and reach out when he flared up. At first he said thanks, but later just silently accepted my help. And eventually, when I got close, he'd sometimes reach out first and grab my wrist. Your temperature? Your hand is always warm. Tomorrow, come with me to the Abyssal Research Station. Abyssal Research Station is the top secret facility for studying special cases, located 300 meters underground. After many security checks, we enter the core lab, a huge ring-shaped space. A model of dark red energy floats in the center. Commander Mr. Su, based on recent data analysis, your teamwork is consistently at an excellent level. Abyss's active contamination index dropped by 42%. Your depression and mental fluctuation range narrowed by 65%. However, long-term high-intensity stress and contamination erosion are causing irreversible damage to your neural substrate. It's stable for now, but it's more like a temporary barrier before a broken dam. If the barrier itself fails, or an outside shock exceeds a critical point. Solution. Routine neural repair and purification have minimal effect. We're trying to find breakthroughs at the genetic and energy source level, but it takes time and luck. Leaving the research station, the sunlight on the surface is blinding. Lulin stayed silent the whole way, just walked even faster. Back in the silent room, he headed straight for the viewing window. Su Li, if that barrier collapses, I will die. And before I die, Abyss will completely lose control, causing destruction that may require an entire city's sacrifice to contain. So you can break down. Starting today, training intensity is doubled until I find a real solution, or until I completely collapse. You have to be ready to take the fall in my place. Well, days with doubled training are pure torment. Every day I drop straight to sleep the moment I hit the bed. Even Abyss beside my pillow can feel my responses are too slow. If that were a mental attack, I'd be brain dead already. My field doesn't retract fast enough. Too wide, making me a target. Breathing control inhale. Panicking will only accelerate your breakdown. My stamina and mental resilience are improving rapidly, but the relaxed atmosphere between me and Lulin is back to square one. Only training and commands remain, until that sudden live combat test. The location, an abandoned city simulator. The mission, survive in a simulated high-intensity contamination field. And find the target beacon. It's just me and Lulin. This is the closest simulation to a real S-class contamination zone. The simulated contamination entities have low activity, but the mental impact is tracked in real time. Maintain your field the way I taught you. Stay within 3 meters of me. The simulation area is dim. Faint purple mist hangs in the ruined buildings. High concentrations of simulated contamination particles fill the air. The air is full of whispers, screams, and chaos. Fragments of anomalies hitting my senses over and over. Even with Lulin leading, I still feel dizzy and sick, only able to barely stand by actively maintaining my clean field. Abyss on my wrist grew more active, sending a mix of disgust and faint excitement. We advanced according to plan, cleared a few lurking contaminants. They were like twisted shadows, attacking mainly through mental shock. Lulin handles them cleanly and efficiently, often dropping them with only a glance and a subtle mind blast. Those shadows dispersed with agonized screams. Everything seemed to go smoothly, until we got close to the target beacon at the central plaza. The beacon in the center was stable, glowing blue. But the moment we stepped into the plaza, mutations erupted. The ground started to shake. The fog around the plaza suddenly thickened, turning a sticky dark purple. And worse, those contaminants we'd cleared. After the body dissipated, the overflowing energy was not absorbed by the environment, but silently gathered beneath the plaza. No, it's a trap. Luling's pupils shrank suddenly, and he yanked me behind him. The energy is flowing back. Something is actively absorbing the pollution. Before he could finish speaking, the plaza ground exploded violently. A massive, composed of countless twisted spirits and polluted energy, aggregated, indescribable monster emerged. It had no fixed form, like a constantly churning and proliferating tumor covered in eyes and mouths, letting out a deafening, malicious telepathic cackle. An S-class active pollution aggregate. This wasn't in the test protocol at all. So Luling made a prompt decision, shielding me as we retreated rapidly. But the monster was even faster. Several polluted energy tentacles shot out like lightning, aimed directly at me. Luling swung his arm to block, his materialized spiritual power forming a barrier. As it collided with the tentacles, a sizzling corrosive sound echoed, but his face turned pale. The monster's attack unexpectedly contained chaotic fluctuations targeting his old spiritual wounds. Similar to Yuan's, it's imitating Yuan's traits. In that moment of distraction, another hidden tentacle bypassed Lu Ling in a flash and viciously whipped against my protective force field. I felt like I was hit head-on by a high-speed hovercar. My chest tightened. A sweet metallic taste filled my throat, and I completely lost control of my body. Flying backward, the cleansing field fluctuated violently, nearly collapsing. Luling's eyes widened in sheer fury. He tried to turn back but was tightly entangled by more tentacles. The monster seemed to have locked onto me. As more attacks surged toward me like a tide, I fell to the ground, my vision going dark. In my ears were the monster's cackles and Lu Ling's furious shouts. Training instincts made me desperately shrink my field, but the polluted tentacles' attacks were too dense. My field was like a soap bubble in a storm, flickering unsteadily. My spiritual energy was depleting rapidly. I couldn't hold on much longer. Just as my consciousness began to blur, a soul-shaking dragon roar rang out. Yuan, wrapped around my wrist, could endure it no longer. A brilliant black light shot into the sky. A massive phantom of a black dragon hovered above me. Its crimson-slit eyes locked onto the polluted monster, filled with the furious wrath of being offended. But Yuan's appearance seemed to further stimulate the monster. It let out an excited cackle, and its attacks became even more frenzied. It even diverted a portion of its power, attempting to entangle and pollute Yuan's phantom. Yuan, get back. However, Yuan didn't listen. He protected me from the front, using his body and breath to block most of the attacks. But he himself was constantly corroded by that peculiar polluted energy. His phantom began to destabilize. As black mist churned, the crimson in his eyes grew increasingly frantic. I could feel Yuan's pain and his gradually escalating frenzy. I also sensed the immense burden of forced suppression from Lu Ling's end, caused by Yuan's backlash. It was all because of me, because I was too weak. No, it can't end like this. I bit the tip of my tongue hard, the sharp pain keeping me awake. In an instant, the mentor's words flashed through my mind. Your field is a filter. It only allows pure, approved spiritual fluctuations to pass through. I looked at Yuan in front of me, blocking attacks, and slowly losing control. Then looked at Lu Ling struggling to hold on nearby, blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. I steeled my resolve, abandoning pure defense. I no longer kept the field tightly contained within myself, but tried to imagine it as a soft net, following the invisible connection between me and Yuan. I slowly extended it outward, gently wrapping the edges of Yuan's restless phantom. It wasn't confrontation. It wasn't purification. It was acceptance and pacification. I didn't know how, but the moment my field touched Yuan, something bizarre happened. Yuan's frantic fluctuations, stimulated by the pollution, upon coming into contact with my absolutely pure and affirming field, reacted like ice water dripping into boiling oil, suddenly coming to a halt. Immediately after, a gentle but firm, older and deeper power originating from Yuan's main body, fed back through my field. That wasn't chaos. It wasn't violence. It was wrapped in layers of filth and pain. The most core aspect of Lu Ling's soul origin, a trace of a silent protective will. My field resonated slightly with this power. The next moment, with Yuan and me at the center, an invisible, clear ripple spread out gently yet swiftly. Wherever the ripple passed, the thick, dark purple mist melted like ice. The monster's tentacles convulsed violently as if burned, and shrank back. Its cackle turned into a terrified wail. The pressure on Lu Ling vanished instantly. He looked toward us in astonishment. Yuan's phantom was no longer manic. He lowered his head, and his crimson-slit eyes glanced at me. For a split second, that gaze actually held clarity and gentleness. Then he roared at the sky, the dragon roar carrying a touch more majesty and solemnity. Toward that heavily injured monster, he spewed an extremely condensed, pitch-black breath. It wasn't a corrosive, polluted breath. It was purification. The monster screamed and melted away in the black breath, annihilated without leaving a trace. The plaza returned to calmness, with only a faint lingering mist. Yuan. The phantom slowly dissipated, merging back into the bracelet, quietly wrapping back around my wrist. Except its temperature was scorching hot. Exhausted, I slumped to my knees on the ground, gasping for air, covered in layers of cold sweat. My brain stung as if it had been hollowed out. Lu Ling walked over quickly, squatted down, and grabbed my shoulder. His grip was painfully strong. His face was still pale, but his eyes were sharp as knives. As he scanned me up and down, "Are you hurt?" I shook my head and tried to speak, but couldn't make a sound.
His gaze
Fell on my bleeding mouth and paper-white face, his brows furrowing deeply. Then he did something that made me freeze completely. He reached out his hand, and using his thumb pad extremely roughly, yet with a faint imperceptible tremble, he wiped the blood from my lips. "Who told you to act recklessly? Expanding your field in that situation. Do you want a mental breakdown?" I looked at him, at his close-up eyes, brimming with anger and other indescribable emotions, and blinked. Yuan, He accepted me. Lu Ling's movements paused. He looked at me, then looked at the slightly hot Yuan on my wrist, his gaze shifting drastically. After a long time, he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the anger had faded, leaving only bottomless complexity. He let go of my shoulder, instead gripping my arm to pull me up. "Let's go back. The special training is over. Starting tomorrow, I will teach you how to truly use Yuan's power, and how to resonate with me." After the Abyss incident, my role shifted from a stabilizer to a resonator. Lu Lin's training methods changed completely. No more extreme physical training. Instead, it's all about seated meditation, mental synchronization. Resonance isn't about control. It's about understanding and vibrating in harmony. Feel Yuan. Feel the essence beneath its power. My will. I close my eyes and sink my awareness into my wrist. The black dragon's breathing. The scales tremble slightly. Deep in the core, that silent flame wrapped in chaos. Slowly, ever so slowly. I tried to touch it with my faint, pure field. Not to purify, but to resonate, like two drops of water trying to merge. The first attempt, I felt a splitting headache. Yuan was agitated too. Refocus. That's right, the force was too blunt. Imagine the resonance of strings, not water. Failure after failure. Adjustment after adjustment. He was uncharacteristically patient. His fingertips occasionally touched my temple or chest, guiding the flow of my mind. A week later, in the middle of the night, I finally caught that fleeting moment. My Changyu, Yuan. The silent flame at the core trembled gently at the same frequency. Extremely subtle but unmistakably clear. The top-level energy monitor of the silent mode instantly read 0. That second was absolute, soul-shaking stillness. Lu Ling and I opened our eyes at the same time. The dark red in his eyes faded away, leaving only pure black, reflecting shock and a hint of relief. You did it. One on my wrist gently nuzzled me. A clear, almost intimate sense of joy came through. Resonance training was finally on track. My connection with Yuan deepened day by day. I could even vaguely sense Lu Lin's emotional edge, not chaos or pain, but deep fatigue, focus, or an occasional fleeting thought. Once there's a fluctuation, I became his true anchor. The military high-ups were happy to see this. Lu Ling's condition has become more stable than ever. Executing high-level missions, success rate and safety improved significantly. My security clearance kept getting upgraded, almost on par with his level. However, the hidden danger has not disappeared. The latest report from the research station shows the shadow at Lu Ling's neural base is still slowly spreading. Resonance can suppress the symptoms, but it can't cure the root cause. It's like using painkillers to delay a terminal illness. It's just a matter of time. I clenched my fist. Yuan felt slightly warm on my wrist. There's nothing else I can do. In theory, if the resonance goes deep enough, it might be able to guide my power to purify the damage in reverse. But the risk is extremely high.
It's like
Letting you enter directly into the core ruins of my spiritual landscape. You'd see the most unbearable parts of me. And if we fail, we would both collapse completely. I fell silent. That night, Lu Ling rarely didn't return to the silent chamber. The guards said he went to the training grounds, using sheer physical strength.
he beat the high-grade alloy target until it was deformed.
I stood by the observation window looking at the simulated starry sky. One on my wrist transmitted anxiety and worry. I gently stroked its cold scales. You want to help him, right? Yuan nuzzled me. Then let's try the worst. Or stay silent together. At least we won't be islands anymore. The decision was made quickly. You're crazy. Even I don't dare go deep into that place lightly. But it's the only possible way. The resonance is now stable. And I'm willing. The research station has simulated it. There's a 37% success rate. And a 63% chance of failure. Do you know what failure means? Do you understand? It's not as simple as dying. It's instant annihilation. A shattered soul. Even Yuan could turn into a real monster. I know, but if we do nothing, how much longer can you hold on? A year, maybe half. By the time you completely lose control, I won't survive either. And countless others will be caught in it. He stared at my heaving chest. A dark red surge in his eyes. Yuan circled uneasily between us. After a long pause, he collapsed into a seat, as if drained of strength, running his hands through his hair. Why? Why does it have to come to this? I walked over and squatted in front of him. For the first time, I took his cold hand on my own. Because you made me feel that living is more than just breathing. You're that island? I want to try and fix it.
He shuddered.
Then gripped my hand tightly in return. So hard it hurt. But he never let go again. 3 days later, everything was ready. The location, Resonance Capsule 0, the deepest part of the research station. Lu Ling and I lay side by side on the platform, wired to countless life support and monitoring systems. Remember the route. Follow the guiding thread. Avoid those memory whirlpools and emotional storms. The target is the shadow in the base region. Guide my source power with resonance to wash it clean. If anything feels wrong, withdraw immediately. I'll bring you back. Got it, Su Ling. If I can't come back, sorry, then let's be stars together. My consciousness was instantly ripped away, thrown into a bizarre, fragmented, twisted space. This is Lu Ling's mind. A ruined city. The sky torn with dark reds. The ground full of cracks. Chaotic phenomena and piercing noises surging everywhere. Gale winds sweeping up memory fragments. Bloody battlefields, icy labs, lonely childhood. And my own shadow, hazy in the distance. Yuan's phantom led the way ahead. Its presence made the chaos around us somewhat calmer. I followed closely. We weaved through broken walls and twisted emotional flora, carefully avoiding those intense, painful or furious whirlpools. The deeper we went, the harsher it became. Scenes began to warp and deform. Spatial awareness became distorted. Countless sharp accusations echoed around me. Mockery, cries, and sighs. It was the noise suppressed deep inside Lu Ling. My cleansing field spread out instinctively, barely filtering out the strongest waves. But the mental overload increased sharply. I could feel my real body trembling slightly. Yuan kept sending encouragement and guidance. Finally, we reached the core region. It was absolute darkness, not just the absence of light, but a void devouring everything, the edges slowly creeping and spreading. Just looking at it felt like my mind would be pulled in and crushed. This is the root of the shadow pollution at the neural base. Yuan stopped and looked back at me. The crimson thicket was heavy with tension. I nodded, walked to the edge of darkness. I closed my eyes, immersed my entire consciousness into resonance with Yuan. This time, it wasn't a gentle touch. I guided my own faint but utterly pure field, flowing up the resonance path, willingly embracing the core of Yuan, that silent flame belonging to Lu Ling's essence. The moment I touched it, it felt like the primordial light and thunder of creation. My consciousness was swept by a vast ancient force, endlessly tired yet protective. A surge of pure will. It wasn't pain. It was the weight of truth. I saw a child, alone in an empty palace, facing an uncontrollable newborn spirit. A teenager, numb, swinging a blade through carnage. A man locking himself in the silent chamber, day after day battling the hellish loneliness in his mind. Unending, frozen solitude. Then a faint light appeared. It was my awkward approach. A warm touch. Quiet company. And those words, fix it. That silent flame grew brilliantly bright within my resonance, suddenly flaring intensely. Obeying my guidance, it surged into a vast golden and warm flood, rushing toward the all-consuming darkness. Light and darkness collided, annihilating and cleansing each other. The entire ruin shook violently. All the monitors in reality blared with alarms. My body and Lu Ling's tensed at the same moment. Life signs shot into dangerous ranges. Hold on, the cleansing in the mindscape was agonizing. It felt endless, like my consciousness was ground over and over on a millstone, or forged in a furnace. Yuan's phantom wound tightly around me, sharing the shock. Just as my wail was about to dissipate, a crack appeared in the edge of darkness. A ray of pure light broke through the gap, and then more golden surges flowed in. The crack widened. Darkness faded, revealing a scarred, but stubbornly existing silver-white foundation below. We did it, at least partly. I was utterly exhausted. My awareness started to fade. Yuan's phantom became transparent, wrapping around me with the last of its strength, racing us back the way we came. The moment we emerged, I faintly heard a voice, directly in the depths of my mind. Hoarse yet, carrying an unprecedented warmth. Thank you, my resonator. Then endless darkness. I slept in the medical pod for 3 days. When I woke, my whole body felt disassembled. My mind was empty. But deep inside, there was a sense of completeness and purity I never felt before. Yuan lay quietly curled around my wrist, warm and comfortable, sending calm, content signals. What about him? Commander Lu's next door. He woke up yesterday. Both your vitals have stabilized. Mr. Su, you've created a miracle. After getting permission to get out of bed, I immediately went next door. Lu Ling was propped up in bed, gazing out the window, this time physically present. There was real sunlight outside the medical bay window. His complexion was still a bit pale, but the lingering coldness and fatigue around his eyes had faded a lot. Hearing movement, he turned his head. Our eyes met. No words, but something invisible passed between us. The resonance was deeper and tighter than before. I walked to the bedside. He extended his hand, palm up, holding it out. I hesitated a second before putting my hand on his. For the first time, his hand was warm. He closed his fingers, gently holding mine. The movement felt as natural as if he'd done it 1,000 times. Does it hurt? Not really. Just a little strained. That won't happen next time. There's a next time? The healing has just begun. That shadow was only suppressed. It'll take many more sessions to clear it completely. Scared? You're here, Yuan's here too. Su Li. I may never be able to give you an ordinary life. Danger surveillance. An uncertain future. And then there's the trouble that is me. I'm classified F level allergic. And it's a human-type medicine. We're about the same. He froze, and then broke into a quiet laugh. His laughter wasn't loud, but it sounded like ice cracking, revealing the warm water flowing below. He lifted his other hand, gently cupping my cheek. His thumb softly brushed the weary shadows under my eyes. So, with me, this trouble. Would you sign a long-term stability contract? I looked into his obsidian-clear eyes. Within them, a tiny and whole image of myself was reflected. The kite on my wrist quietly tightened, then loosened, like a satisfied sigh. Contract duration. It has to be forever. Sunlight filled the room. The silence remained cold as ever. The abyssal threat was not yet fully resolved. But some things had changed forever, like the lonely island that finally welcomed its breeze, like the human-shaped medicine that found its one and only medicine jar.